Welcome to another story written by Oracle 1. The Doppelgängers of the Abandoned Asylum. Chapter 1. Rain hammered against the windshield as Nathan Cole drove deeper into the mountains. The road had long since narrowed into cracked pavement swallowed by weeds and fog, twisting endlessly through dense forests where dead branches scraped softly against the sides of his truck whenever the wind shifted. The storm had followed him for hours. Thunder rolled constantly through the mountains, low and distant like something breathing in its sleep beneath the earth. Nathan kept both hands tightly on the wheel while the old map resting on the passenger seat trembled faintly beneath the truck's vibrations. Black Hollow Asylum sat at the edge of the mountains several miles ahead. Or at least it used to. Most maps no longer listed it. Most locals refused to speak about it at all. Nathan had spent years trying to ignore the place himself. But the photograph arriving 3 days earlier changed everything. It now rested inside his coat pocket. Old, faded, water-damaged around the edges. The image showed the asylum entrance beneath heavy fog. And standing in one of the upper windows was Nathan himself. Not recently. Younger. The exact same clothes he wore 17 years earlier the night his sister vanished inside Black Hollow Asylum during a storm almost identical to this one. Official reports claimed the building had partially collapsed during the evacuation fire. Bodies were never fully recovered. Too much damage. Too much confusion. His parents buried an empty coffin 2 months later. But Nathan never truly believed Claire was dead. Because for years afterward, strange things kept happening. Reflections lagging behind his movements. Brief glimpses of himself standing motionless at the ends of hallways late at night before disappearing. And always the same recurring nightmare. Endless corridors beneath flickering hospital lights. Footsteps following behind him, his own voice whispering softly through the dark. The storm intensified suddenly. Rain blurred the windshield almost completely before the wipers forced visibility back in uneven streaks. Then the fog shifted ahead. And Black Hollow appeared. Nathan slowed immediately. The asylum rose from the mountainside like a rotting carcass left to decay in the forest. Massive stone walls stretched endlessly behind rusted fencing while dark towers disappeared into drifting fog overhead. Several upper floors had collapsed inward over the years, leaving jagged holes exposed like broken ribs beneath the storm clouds. Yet despite the decay, lights glowed faintly behind several windows. Nathan stared at them, pale yellow light flickering deep within the abandoned structure. His pulse quickened. The asylum should have been empty. He pulled through the rusted front gates slowly. The iron screeched loudly as the truck forced them apart. Gravel crunched beneath the tires before he finally parked near the main entrance staircase. For several moments he simply sat listening to the rain hammering against the roof. The building towered above him silently. Watching, Nathan removed the photograph from his pocket. The figure standing in the asylum window stared back at him from the faded image. Same face. Same posture. Same expressionless eyes. Thunder rolled again overhead. Then the upper light inside the asylum switched off. Nathan froze. Darkness swallowed the window instantly. He stared upward through the rain. No movement followed. Yet the feeling settled immediately into his chest. Someone inside knew he had arrived. Nathan stepped from the truck into freezing rain. The smell of wet pine and rotting leaves filled the mountain air while fog drifted heavily around the asylum walls. The front staircase sagged dangerously beneath his weight as he climbed toward the entrance doors. Long scratch marks covered the wood surrounding them. Not random damage. Parallel lines carved deeply into the surface from top to bottom. Nathan's flashlight beam moved across them slowly. The marks looked fresh. His chest tightened. The doors stood slightly open. Darkness waited beyond them. A faint smell drifted outward from inside the asylum. Mold. Rust, damp concrete, and beneath all of it, bleach. Fresh bleach. Nathan swallowed hard, then pushed the doors wider. The asylum interior opened before him in darkness and silence. His flashlight beam cut slowly through the massive entrance hall. Dust drifted through the air. Wheelchairs lay overturned near the walls beneath collapsed ceiling panels. Long reception desks stretched across one side of the room while rusted medical carts sat abandoned near peeling wallpaper stained black with moisture. Rainwater dripped steadily somewhere deeper inside the building. Nathan stepped carefully forward. The doors creaked shut behind him immediately. He spun around sharply. The entrance doors remained closed. No wind, no movement, just silence pressing heavily through the hall. His flashlight flickered once, then steadied again. The beam landed on the reception desk. Fresh footprints covered the dust behind it. Bare footprints, leading deeper into the asylum. Nathan's pulse quickened. "Hello?" he called. His voice echoed softly through the halls beyond, then returned again. "Hello?" The second voice sounded wrong. Not an echo. Too clear. Too close. Nathan turned slowly toward the corridor ahead. Darkness stretched endlessly beyond the entrance hall while old hospital lights hung dead from the ceiling overhead. Water dripped steadily somewhere far below. Then footsteps echoed faintly above him. Slow, measured, crossing the upper floor directly overhead. Nathan aimed the flashlight upward instinctively. Nothing visible beyond rusted railings and darkness. The footsteps stopped. Silence returned. Then a wheelchair rolled slowly across the second-floor hallway above him. Nathan froze. The empty chair moved by itself through the darkness before stopping near the railing. His flashlight beam caught it fully. Water dripped from the chair onto the floor beneath. Not rainwater. Darker. Thicker. The chair slowly turned toward him. Nathan staggered backward instinctively. The flashlight flickered violently. And for one brief second, someone stood beside the wheelchair upstairs. Nathan saw his own face staring down at him through the darkness above. Then the lights overhead exploded on. Every hallway flooded suddenly with pale yellow hospital light. Nathan shielded his eyes instinctively. The asylum no longer looked abandoned. The walls appeared clean, restored. Nurses walked silently through distant corridors pushing medical carts while shadowed patients sat motionless along benches beneath the humming lights. Nathan's breathing became shallow. No one acknowledged him. The entire asylum moved with unnatural silence despite the visible activity around him. A nurse passed slowly across the far hallway pushing an empty wheelchair. Nathan stared toward her. Her face remained hidden beneath shadow despite the bright lighting overhead. Then she stopped moving, slowly turned her head toward him, and smiled with Nathan's face. Chapter 2. The nurse's smile widened slowly across Nathan's own face. Not natural. Too wide. Too still. Her eyes remained fixed upon him while the wheelchair beside her creaked softly against the polished floor. Nathan stumbled backward instinctively. The asylum lights overhead flickered once. Then every figure throughout the hallways stopped moving simultaneously. Nurses froze mid-step. Patients sat motionless along benches. Medical carts stood abandoned in the corridors. Silence flooded the building so completely Nathan could hear the low electrical hum vibrating inside the walls. Then every face turned toward him at once. Every nurse, every patient, every figure in every hallway now wore Nathan's face. His pulse hammered violently. No, the word barely escaped him. The figures continued staring silently. Their identical smiles spread slowly wider beneath the pale hospital lights. Then the nearest patient whispered softly, "You came back." The others repeated it immediately. "You came back. You came back. You came back." Hundreds of Nathan's voices layered together through the asylum corridors. The sound vibrated through the walls like distant machinery waking beneath the building. Nathan turned and ran. His boots thundered across the polished floor as he sprinted deeper into the asylum. The hallways stretched endlessly beneath flickering lights while the whispers followed him from every direction. "You left us. You left her. You left yourself." Nathan's chest tightened painfully. He rounded another corner sharply and nearly collided with a rusted hospital bed blocking the corridor. The mattress straps hung loose from the sides, stained dark with old water damage. His flashlight beam shook violently across the walls. Room numbers lined the corridor. Most doors stood open, revealing abandoned patient rooms beyond. Then Nathan stopped. Room 214, Claire's room. His stomach twisted instantly. The door stood partially open. Warm yellow light flickered faintly inside. Nathan approached slowly. The whispers throughout the asylum softened immediately as though listening. Rain hammered faintly against distant windows somewhere beyond the walls. Nathan pushed the door open wider. The room looked untouched by time. Clean white sheets covered the bed. Medical equipment hummed softly near the walls while pale curtains drifted gently around the single window overlooking the storm outside. And Claire sat quietly on the edge of the bed. Nathan stopped breathing. She looked exactly 17 years old. Same dark hair. Same oversized gray sweater she wore the night of the fire. Her hands rested calmly in her lap while she stared toward the floor beneath the dim lighting. "Claire." His voice cracked. She slowly raised her head. Tears immediately filled Nathan's eyes. "I knew you'd come back," she whispered softly. Nathan stepped toward her. "How are you here?" Claire smiled faintly. "I never left." Something about the answer chilled him instantly. The hospital lights above flickered again. For a brief moment the room darkened completely. And during that darkness, Nathan heard breathing directly beside him. Slow, wet, inhumanly deep. The lights returned immediately. Claire remained seated on the bed. But now another figure stood behind her near the wall. Nathan froze. It looked like him, taller somehow. Thin hospital clothing hung loosely from its body while water dripped steadily from pale fingertips onto the floor beneath it. Its face matched Nathan's perfectly except for the eyes. Entirely black, empty. The doppelganger smiled slowly. Nathan staggered backward. Claire stood instantly. "Don't leave again." The plea sounded genuine, desperate. But the thing behind her leaned closer slowly, placing one pale hand against her shoulder possessively. Nathan's pulse thundered. "Claire, get away from it." Her expression changed immediately. Confusion first, then disappointment. "You still don't understand." The doppelganger behind her opened its mouth slightly. And Nathan heard his own voice emerge from inside it. "She belongs here now." The room lights exploded. Glass shattered overhead while darkness swallowed the patient room completely. Nathan stumbled backward into the hallway. The corridor had changed. The clean hospital walls were gone. Rotting plaster and black mold covered everything again while rusted pipes dripped dark water from the ceiling. The whispers returned louder than before. Footsteps echoed slowly somewhere nearby. Nathan aimed the flashlight wildly through the corridor. Empty wheelchairs lined the walls now. Every wheelchair occupied. Figures sat motionless beneath stained hospital gowns with heads lowered toward their chests. Nathan backed away carefully. One wheelchair occupant slowly lifted its head. Nathan stared into his own face again. Then another figure lifted its head. Another Nathan. Another. Endless versions of him lining the corridor in silence. Some looked older. Some younger. Several appeared burned beyond recognition. Others looked partially drowned. But everyone wore his face. The nearest doppelganger spoke softly. "We stayed." Another whispered from farther down the hall. "You escaped." A third voice emerged beside him suddenly. "But part of you remained." Nathan spun violently. The burned doppelganger stood inches away now. Blackened flesh hung from its face while one eye dangled uselessly against melted skin. Yet it still smiled with Nathan's expression. Nathan shoved past it and ran again. The corridor twisted sharply through collapsing sections of the asylum while emergency lights flashed red somewhere deeper below. Sirens began echoing faintly through the building. Fire alarms. The sound dragged memories violently back into Nathan's mind. Smoke-filling hallways. Patients screaming. Claire disappearing into darkness while sprinklers rained black water from the ceilings. Nathan's breathing became ragged. He reached a stairwell door and forced it open. The stairwell descended far below the asylum foundations into darkness. Water dripped steadily upward from beneath. Upward. Nathan froze at the realization. Gravity felt wrong here. The droplets rose from the lower darkness toward the ceiling above like reversed rain. Then came the voice again. Claire's voice. Nathan. Soft. Weak. Somewhere below the stairwell. He looked downward slowly. A faint yellow light flickered deep beneath the asylum. And standing at the bottom of the stairs was Claire. Real Claire. Not smiling. Terrified. Blood covered one side of her face while smoke stains darkened her clothing. She looked exactly as she had during the fire 17 years earlier. "Please," she whispered, "don't leave me here again." Nathan's chest tightened painfully. He started downward immediately. The deeper he descended, the colder the stairwell became. Frost spread across the walls while the reversed water droplets continued floating upward past him into darkness above. Claire remained visible below, standing perfectly still near the faint yellow light. "I tried to find you," Nathan said weakly. Her eyes filled slowly with tears. "No." The word echoed strangely through the stairwell. "You ran." Nathan stopped walking. The memories returned harder now. Fire spreading through the hallways. Panic. Claire screaming behind him somewhere within the smoke. And Nathan. Running toward the exit alone. His stomach twisted violently. "No." Claire's face changed slowly. Not into anger. Into grief. "You heard me calling for help." The stairwell lights flickered red. Nathan's breathing became shallow. The truth surfaced slowly through years of buried guilt. He remembered now. He had heard Claire behind him during the fire. And he kept running anyway. The lights died completely. Darkness swallowed the stairwell. Then every voice in the asylum whispered together from below him. "Now we remember too." Chapter 3. Darkness swallowed the stairwell completely. Nathan stood frozen while whispers breathed softly upward through the blackness below him. Hundreds of voices. Thousands perhaps. All carrying his tone. His cadence. His breathing. "Now we remember too." The words echoed endlessly through the asylum foundations. Nathan gripped the flashlight tighter and switched it on again. The beam flickered weakly before cutting through the darkness below. Claire still stood at the bottom of the stairs beneath the faint yellow emergency light. But now she looked wrong. Her face shifted subtly beneath the light as though multiple versions of her existed slightly out of alignment with one another. Burned Claire. Drowned Claire. Pale hospital Claire. All flickering beneath the same skin. Nathan's pulse hammered painfully. "What are you?" Claire looked upward slowly. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'm what you left behind." The stairwell groaned loudly around him. Metal railings bent inward with sharp screeching noises while the walls pulsed faintly like something breathing beneath layers of concrete. The whispers throughout the asylum deepened. Nathan heard entire conversations now hidden within them. Patients crying. Doctors begging. Voices screaming through fire and smoke 17 years earlier. Then another sound emerged beneath them all. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Climbing upward from the darkness below Claire. Nathan aimed the flashlight downward harder. Shapes moved beneath the stairwell. Human silhouettes ascending slowly from impossible depth. One stepped partially into the emergency light. Nathan staggered backward. Another doppelganger. His face. His body. But horribly burned along one side while hospital restraints hung from its wrists trailing broken leather straps behind it. Then another emerged below it. This one pale and bloated from water exposure. Another missing both eyes entirely. More followed behind them. Endless versions of Nathan climbing slowly upward through the stairwell darkness. Claire whispered softly, "They stayed with me." The nearest doppelganger smiled. "You abandoned us." Nathan backed higher up the stairs instinctively. "You're not real." The burned doppelganger tilted its head slowly. "Neither are you." The words hollowed something deep inside his chest. The emergency lights flashed red again. And suddenly Nathan remembered something else. Not the fire. Before the fire. Doctors leading him through these same lower levels as a child while Claire screamed somewhere far below. Nathan's breathing became ragged. Another memory surfaced immediately afterward. A doctor kneeling beside him saying softly, "If you see yourself again, you must never answer when it speaks." Nathan stopped moving entirely. The doppelgangers continued climbing upward slowly. Their identical eyes remained fixed upon him without blinking. "What happened here?" he whispered. Claire's expression shifted into something almost sympathetic. Black Hollow wasn't an asylum. Thunder exploded somewhere above the building. The stairwell trembled violently. Claire looked toward the darkness beneath her feet. Fear crossed her face for the first time. It was a place where they kept the copies. Nathan stared at her. The whispers softened immediately as though listening carefully now. Claire continued quietly. The doctors discovered something beneath the mountain. Reflections that learned people by watching them. Nathan's stomach twisted violently. "No." The drowned doppelganger smiled wider. "Every patient who came here began seeing themselves." More memories surfaced. Mirrors covered with cloth. Nurses avoiding eye contact. Patients screaming at empty corners of rooms. Claire stepped backwards slightly into the emergency light. At first the copies only appeared in reflections. Her voice trembled now. Then they started replacing people. The stairwell below them shifted unnaturally. The steps stretched farther downward than before while darkness expanded beneath the ascending doppelgangers. Nathan's flashlight beam could no longer find the bottom. "The fire wasn't an accident," Claire whispered. Nathan's pulse spiked. The truth arrived before she spoke it. They tried to burn the copies. Every doppelganger in the stairwell stopped climbing simultaneously. Absolute silence followed. Then the burned version nearest Nathan whispered softly. But some escaped. The emergency light above Claire burst violently. Darkness swallowed the stairwell again. Nathan heard movement instantly. Fast movement. The doppelgangers began climbing upward rapidly through the darkness. Nathan turned and ran. His boots thundered upward while identical footsteps chased him from below. The stairwell warped around him as he climbed. Doors appeared along the walls where none existed before. Small observation windows revealed patient rooms beyond them. And inside every room sat Nathan. Hundreds of him watching silently through the glass as he passed. Some smiled. Some cried. Some clawed desperately at the doors trying to get out. "Let us out." The screams erupted together from every room simultaneously. Nathan burst through the stairwell door into the upper corridor again. The asylum lights flickered violently overhead. The building no longer resembled either version he had seen before. Rotting walls merged with clean hospital corridors while burned sections bled into untouched rooms impossibly. Reality itself seemed unstable inside Black Hollow now. The whispers came from everywhere. Nathan sprinted through the twisting corridors while shapes moved beside him constantly just outside the flashlight beam. Every reflective surface showed the wrong movements. Mirrors, windows, polished floor tiles. His reflections lagged behind him, smiling faintly while he ran. Then Nathan stopped abruptly. He had reached the main entrance hall again. The front doors stood open. Rain and storm wind screamed outside beyond the staircase. Relief nearly overwhelmed him. Then he saw the figure standing between him and the exit. Himself. Perfectly identical. Same clothing. Same exhausted expression. Same trembling flashlight in its hand. Nathan froze. The doppelganger stared back silently. "Move." His own voice answered him calmly. "Which one of us should leave?" Nathan's chest tightened painfully. The figure stepped closer slowly. "Do you remember the fire clearly now?" Nathan said nothing, because he did remember now. Not just abandoning Claire. Something worse. The doppelganger smiled faintly. "You died here too." The whispers throughout the asylum stopped instantly. Silence crashed down around them. Nathan felt his knees weaken. "No." The figure nodded once. The real Nathan never escaped Black Hollow. Memories exploded violently through his mind. Smoke filling the corridors. Ceiling beams collapsing. Nathan trapped beneath burning debris, screaming for help while Claire disappeared into the lower levels. Then darkness. Cold hands dragging him somewhere below the asylum foundations afterward. Nathan staggered backward. "No." The doppelganger's expression almost saddened. "You've been the replacement ever since." Thunder shook the building violently overhead. Nathan looked toward the storm outside the open entrance doors, and saw another version of himself standing in the rain beyond the gate. Then another farther back, near the trees. Then dozens throughout the forest surrounding the asylum, watching silently through the storm. The doppelganger stepped closer. Black Hollow never let anything leave. Nathan's breathing became shallow. His memories no longer felt stable. His childhood, his parents, his entire life after the fire suddenly felt distant and artificial, like copied photographs of someone else's existence. The figure raised one pale hand slowly toward him. "But now the others know you survived longer than they did." The hospital lights died completely. Darkness swallowed the entrance hall. Then every version of Nathan throughout the asylum whispered together from the blackness around him. "Come back downstairs." The voices moved closer. Footsteps surrounded him from every direction. Nathan stumbled toward the open entrance desperately. Rain and cold air struck his face the moment he crossed the threshold. He ran blindly into the storm. The mountain road stretched downward through fog ahead. Behind him, Black Hollow Asylum stood dark and silent against the cliffs. No lights, no movement, just ruins beneath endless rain. Nathan collapsed near his truck, gasping heavily. Then slowly looked up toward the asylum windows. Every window now contained someone staring down at him. Hundreds of Nathans standing motionless behind the glass, smiling faintly. Years later, people traveling through those mountains sometimes reported seeing a man walking alone beside the road during storms. He always looked exhausted, pale, confused. He often waved desperately for passing cars to stop. Most drivers ignored him, but the few who did stop later described something unsettling. The man never cast reflections in their mirrors correctly. Sometimes the reflection smiled when he did not. Sometimes it moved seconds too late. And sometimes, very late at night, drivers claimed they glanced briefly into the rearview mirror only to find the passenger seat empty, while another version of themselves sat silently in the backseat smiling through the dark. For more stories, like and subscribe.